Hello, Rachel.
Hello, Ryan.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Well, I am doing, I'm scared, actually, because since we've chatted last on this podcast, I created a device to open up the multiverse to check if there's any other Australian Babylon 5 podcasts out there, and you will not believe what I found. Do you believe what I found?
No.
You don't?
No.
It's hard because guess what? There is another in the multiverse, but it's us again, but we're older. We're up to season 5, and it's like the timelines are all weird, and I've got a hook for a hand, and you have robot legs, and I'm like, does this count as another one? Because here's the reasoning why I think it may count. They also use different names, but it's clearly us. But I don't know what to make of this.
But do they use YYE?
Well, I didn't get, you know what? I heard a bit of their podcast, and it was hard to understand because they were speaking in German. I think this is one where they won the war. And so I don't know what Yum Yum is in German. I'm sure many of our Yumlings out there who are German people, who are big B5 fans, I know that for a fact. As I said in a previous one, I went to Neptune and there was a German Babylon 5 podcast there. So those guys love it. But I'm not too sure. I'll go back next week and find out. I'll learn the German language and find out what Yum Yum and if they have energy of it. But we're here to talk about Babylon 5, Rachel. We're rewatching it, revisiting it, and discussing it. And for this one, we had to bring in an expert, somebody with a diploma, somebody with a piece of paper hung up on their wall saying that they're a Naroon expert, somebody who is also an elected leader, our bonehead in chief. It is Pat. He is here. Hello, Pat.
Guten Morgen. Hello, this timeline.
Oh no, one of the Pats from the other timelines came through from one of the other multiverses. Oh no!
I imagine with robot legs and a hook hand, they don't say yum yum, they say num num because they can't feel anything anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Just like Rachel, num num. Because you can't feel the yum yum as much because we've said it so many times. Because when I ask you, which I'm going to do now, could you explain where yum yum came from? You roll your eyes and sigh. She's doing it right now, everyone. And that tells me you have num num energy. And maybe to restore your yum yum energy, you need to tell us all where it came from.
I have fuck you, Ryan energy. That's what I have. To explain.
Is that German for yum yum energy?
FYR.
Yeah, FYR, yeah. So you were saying?
Nope.
She's refusing now. She's gone on strike. I better get Orenzento to come in and negotiate with her. While we wait for Rachel to embrace the yum yum, Pat, could you tell everyone where it came from?
It came from this obscure Paramount Plus show called Star Trek Discovery, where Michelle, you asked someone if they want to make electronic sausage. In some
AI sausage, yes.
Commander Non, right? Is it Non, like the bread?
Yes.
Commander Non goes, yum, yum, as a respond. And I hope I got the right inflection for that.
I didn't hear you lick your lips beforehand, but it sounds about accurate. And please say it correctly. Yeah. Oscar-winning actress Michelle Yeoh in Star Trek Discovery. Absolutely. I can't wait for her Section 31 show, which will totally happen. It's just been delayed. I'm sure it's going to happen, especially now. She's got star power, and everyone's waiting to see Ash Tyler come back. But we're here to talk about... Oh, gosh. We're here... Clem Fandango, he'll come back. But
I was waiting. I was trying to remember that, yeah.
Yeah, God.
Hi, Stephen.
Yes?
This is Clem Fandango.
Yes?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Clem Fandango.
Episode 13, Rumors, Bargains, and Lies. While Delenn tries to end the escalating feud between the Mbryo warrior and religious caste, Sheridan sets in motion a ruse aimed at bringing reluctant worlds under the station's protective umbrella. So no meanwhile in this description.
Meanwhile is not available today because it had to take a little break. It's done a lot of heavy lifting for these DVD descriptions. And Rumors, Bargains, and Lies is an episode bursting at the seams with YYE, Yum Yum energy. And am I just an old hat when I say that it's Sheridan that would have said yum yum in this episode? I feel like we recoil from giving it to Sheridan because he's our lead character and he just naturally has YYE, but golly gee, he is just bursting with it in every single scene he's in. Bruce Boxleitner gets to play up so much high energy here that I can't take my eye off of him and say he doesn't say yum yum. I know that there are plenty of other people who can as well, but he's the star that's burning the brightest right now. Rachel, what do you think? You gave me a raised eyebrow when I said Sheridan. So who's your YYE contender?
I raise you Londo.
Yeah? Yeah? For what reason?
Londo referencing the actual line of Yum Yum when he's complaining about not understanding Earth history and Earth's psychology. He references the Winchester mansion.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine him slotting in Yum Yum?
I actually thought you were going to say, your Earth history and psychology. You have things like Star Trek Discovery, in which a character says yum yum and people are supposed to find that funny. You Earthers, I don't understand your ways. Yum yum. Why would she say that, Sheridan? And then Sheridan would be like, hey, it was a funny bit. Okay, just let it go. Let it go, Londo.
He's confused. He's like, you don't like Yum Yum?
You don't like Yum Yum? It was the greatest line in all of Star Trek. And then Londo will roll his eyes and go, oh, that's Star Trek again. You and the Star Trek. What is this? What are we, some sort of deep space franchise? Now, Pat, it's all on you. Who is your person that you thought could have said Yum Yum in this episode if JMS gave them the chance?
So I have my real answer that will count, but I would like to give an honorable mention because I can imagine the two religious cast members, one saying, hey, do you want to have a suicide pact? And the other one goes, yum yum, because religious people, they love their suicide pacts. No, it absolutely is Sheridan. The whole episode, he's just yumming up the place the whole way.
He's
Londo's a good option, but it's by quantity alone. He's the whole way through.
Londo's only there for brief moments, but he does have some. But Sheridan, wowzers!
He just outdoes him. Yeah.
I guess I just go for quality over quantity.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I mean that's valid.
Okay, Pat, it's time for us to leave because we're just scum who only like big boom boom yum yums.
Scum.
We're scum. Pat, Rumors, Bargains, and Lies. We brought you on for this one, and obviously because Nehruun is here, but could you tell us a bit about your overall feelings towards this, your history and relationship with it?
I mean, this is like peak Babylon 5. This is like when I was watching every episode every week when it first aired. I think back in the day, I remember being like, oh, right, the Mbryo still have problems because you finished the Shadow War and you still got to deal with Earth. But whenever this episode came along, I was like, oh, yeah, Nehruun. And I didn't expect a civil war, but at the time, I was just like, okay, this is really solid. I think this is probably the episode where like, no, you know what? Honestly, I'll say next episode, slight spoiler, is when I'm like, Nehruun, MVP, Nehruun, he's so good. But
he's a good boy.
He's a very good boy.
He's a good boy. Here's a treat for you, Nehruun. Why, thank you, Ryan. I love a good treat from you, Mr. Sliwinski of the YumYumPodcast. I like doggy treats. Rachel, Rumors, Bargains, and Lies. Your thoughts, opinions, and history with it?
I remember being like, and Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. These things happen together. And being like, but which one's the A plot? Because they treat Sheridan's plot like it's the main one.
But it's goofy.
And it's also less interesting to me than the Minbari stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, but I want more of that stuff.
Well, you're going to get 2 whole episodes worth of that stuff.
And then it delivers.
I like this episode overall. It's one I look back on fondly. It is what Pat said. It is peak Babylon 5. We're in the realm where this is what it is as a show. It can't get really any... I don't think it could get any better than this run of the show when you just look at it. And I like it, but I also forget, like you, some of those finer details, because I do think of this so mixed in with the next episode, because this is one of those unofficial part 1 stories where part 1 of 2 parts of this Minbari Civil War storyline, and with Naroon and everything, but
setting up.
I always forget to, until it happens, Sheridan's crazy antics in this, because Sheridan, even though he's a goofy character, he can be very silly and strange. I still always think of him as the guy, the gruff guy, the guy who's going to be Mr. We're gonna take it to them. We're gonna go planet by planet and kick their ass. But when you do sit down and watch an episode like this, you're like, oh, that's right. Sheridan's like a little freak. He's like a little goofy goblin.
And refusing to play diplomacy.
Yeah, and
play politics.
He's going to play politics in a weird little way. He's a kooky one. So Rachel, could you tell us a bit about what Sheridan is up to, since we're on the topic, and this was the one that you, at least in the past, have found the least interesting one out of the 2 plots? Is it still like that?
It's fun, and I think I get a bit over it by the end. I'm like, how has nobody figured out what he's fucking doing?
Because it's so bizarre. It's so weird.
It's just like, oh, he remembered that reverse psychology is a thing?
Mm-hmm.
And motivating people by their fears is effective? What was that, Pat?
I was going to say, I think maybe Londo was trying to hint at, this is the asinine end of the universe that is humanity. We're nobody gets us because we're too silly.
Yeah.
Correct. So what is happening with Sheridan? What's he doing exactly?
Well, he's pondering what to do about the League. He's gotten the Centauri and the Nun to agree to let the White Stars patrol their borders to help with the Raiders and the Drak.
Mm-hmm.
And then the others come in for breakfast, and he's just off his rocker.
He is in the corner, giggling to himself, smiling, looking off in the middle distance. Hey, they're back in the canteen again.
Yeah.
It's been a little while since we've lived here, and I love this. I love this so much more than fucking Earhart's.
Marcus is joining them for breakfast?
Well, why not? At this point, there's a big, monochrome, fucking...
It's just everybody who's involved
Babylon 5.
in this plot is just having breakfast together.
This is a typical product of the times where Zach Allen comes in to tell us, the audience, in case we missed the previous episodes, what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't exactly be the case in a modern show, but you got to catch up the people who missed out on the last few episodes of what is going on. But Sheridan is absolutely insane during this, and they're keeping note of him. They're talking the League, it's like herding cats. They're very annoying. Every 4 months we have to re-deal with them, and we
need to get them on board, but they're not going to want to be on board, and it's just going to be all this effort to try and get them to understand the threat. But we saw what they did last time, and then Sheridan forms a plan.
Well, before he forms a plan, he's laughing and laughing and laughing, and then eventually he erupts and he walks over there, he grabs a chair and sits down. And my favorite piece of acting in the episode, because there's so many great pieces, but one of my favorite moments in this episode of performance is Claudia Christian when Sheridan when he smacks the table, she just freaks out. She's like, "Oh my fucking God, what's happening?" Like, because she's just gotten up. Like, her character's like, "I've just gotten
she's
up."
She's not a morning person.
She's not a morning person. And there's Sheridan being like, "Golly gee," and he just punches the table. The cutlery flies up and she just freaks out. If you watch the scene, watch Claudia Christian. She's got that comedic sensibility, and she's really leaning into it in this scene where there's so much visually happening, as well as just you're perturbed by what Sheridan is like here, that you can easily miss what she's doing, but I never do. I'm like, Claudia's having fun with this.
Listen, Marcus, after you've finished your breakfast, I want you to take 3 white stars out to Sector 87 and wait for orders.
What do you want me to do?
I don't know yet. But trust me, this is going to be great.
He goes around to Londo, as we have touched upon, to use him and Jakar, who's not in this episode, sadly, but to use these two major forces who are at war recently, who have now accepted the White Star fleets as aid to them, which was already a big thing to ask. And now he goes over to Londo to say, deny it. Just deny it. Just if they ask you, just say you don't know anything. Just deny, okay? And that scene there with Londo is really fun because he's back into that old mold that we very much enjoy. Comedic Londo, over the top, vitriolic, robust kind of shouting performance. He has all of the Londo-isms that you used to enjoy so much. And it was just great to see Sheridan and Londo having that old back and forth that they used to have from time to time, as even Londo is, "Hey, you're pushing this," and Sheridan leaning in going, "Hey, trust me, okay? Just trust me." And Bruce Boxleitner has that twinkle in his eye that you can't help but see and go, "Okay, Londo, you should trust him. He's a good guy."
Oh, but he's also having so much fun. He's having so much fun being mischievous.
He's having fun making a conspiracy and pulling the wool over everybody's eyes, including Ivanova, including, Marcus and all of that.
Like, he could have told them, but it's more fun.
Yeah.
This way. Like, it's more fun this way. That's it.
For you, Rachel, when you see this happening, how much of it do you think he actually had formed in his head, and how much of it is him just going through the motions and the momentum and winging it as he goes along? I
think he knew what the end goal was. I think he had an idea of how he was going to involve everybody, but I don't think he had a plan.
He kind of touches upon that when he sends Marcus in a White Star to go to that area, and it's like, "Well, what do you want me to do there?" "I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out." It's like, okay.
I believe that. I believe he's just like, okay, well, the White Stars need to be somewhere that's not on the station.
Marcus, can you blow up a couple of asteroids and leave Bryan Cranston's body floating in space as evidence? I'd be like, okay, great.
Sure. I mean, when it comes to your sci-fi leads, a lot of the time, this isn't a universal, but a lot of the time, especially in this type of science fiction where you got a ship and a captain and a hierarchy, usually the captain character is stoic or level-headed or wise, or basically what I'm saying is they're like Sinclair or Picard or Captain Kirk or whatever it is, and they're not kooky. Yeah. Usually they're not the kooky characters. We're watching for the first time The Expanse on our Patreon, which you can check out, and Holden is not a kooky character. He's what you would expect from a sci-fi lead. He is level-headed. He's got a heart of gold underneath that snark, but he's not kooky and weird in what we've seen. But Sheridan pretty much from the gate is like superstitious, believes in conspiracies.
He's a dork.
He's a dork. He doesn't like his job, but he will do it out of moral responsibility anyway. And I think that's what really makes me enjoy a plot like this, which is it's bizarre in the context of its contemporary characters.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine Cisco making this kind of play in the way that Sheridan does. He's like, Sheridan is just such a cartoon when he's doing this because he's like we said, a little kid who's finally getting to make their conspiracy. And it's just adorable in a way. When he sends Marcus, who's also a silly character, to go do something, and Marcus, the guy who's full of quips, is quipless because he's just shocked at what's going on. It's amazing.
Like,
I was gonna say is now that I know you guys have watched. Well, I know Ryan has watched Farscape. I really wish they had done an episode where Sheridan and Kosh were animated like the Roadrunner, and then like Sheridan just kept getting outsmarted by the Vorlon and kept falling off cliffs and stuff like that. Like, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, we've both watched The Expanse, and Farscape's great too because, John Crichton starts off as cheesy, boring sci-fi. I'm generically handsome, as Rachel said. Like, he's generically handsome, but as it goes along, he becomes insane. Like, that's a part of the story.
She says that about you or about John? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. But John Crichton becomes insane during this. And while Sheridan, the thing is, he doesn't become insane in that way. He was just already weird from the beginning. Like, that's the difference. Like, He was
always a dork.
He's Mr. I gotta give my Abraham Lincoln speech, or else bad luck.
24 hours. And I'm gonna give an old Egyptian blessing as well.
The Sheridan story is made up a lot of sequences of him specifically going to different people and doing a weird little ploy that we don't understand. And so we've already said, Marcus, go out here. What are you going out here for? Shoot some asteroids. Why? Just do it and then come back. That's your job.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Are you gonna do your job?
Yeah, just do it. Trust me.
I'm giving you a command. Fucking do it, bitch.
Londo, deny.
That was a weird line. That was a weird line where he's like, Marcus, if you don't feel like doing it, I can get somebody else. It's like, that was really weird that he checked on that.
But he's being top dog. He's Ranger 1.
He's being top dog.
He's got big dick energy more than YYE in this. But he gets Londo, deny. And Ivanova, you keep asking me is what's going on, and I'm just going to keep chuckling, being like, you'll see. You'll see.
I don't think, sorry, just to cut. I don't think he's Ranger 1 at this point. I think that's still Delenn.
She's still Ranger 1. They both have shared responsibility, right? He's on LaShock.
Right, yeah.
He's the on LaShock.
She's on LaShock, Ranger 1.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't he become later?
Look,
like, isn't that...
You know what? I believe you. Linnea will betray him later. I've got a note about Linnea. Don't worry, we'll get to good boy Linnea. Oh, boy. But when it comes to all of these little scheming moments, what were some of your favorites that were hit in the episode, Pat? When you see, Sheridan walking over, or he even drags other people to do this plot, what were some of your favorite go-to bits?
It's when we're talking about how much did he have it planned and how much he improvised. I think my favorite is his improvisation where he closes his eyes, points at the board, and says, "Nothing happened there." Can you report that? Like, I love that one. She's like, "Really, nothing happened there." He's like, "Cool, then report that." Okay, and then you have friggin' Ivanova being like, "Oh, by the way," during the middle of her report, like, "Nothing happened here." Like, oh my god, I love it.
I like how she tries to play
nothing to see here is the best way to say something. Yeah, I like. It was a subtle thing, but I like her. She has a different voice. Like she's doing news reporter journalism voice.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Claudia Christian differentiates
more in this episode than others. Yeah. She's like, yeah, in the news. Like she's like got a bit of gravel or whatever. What's the
gravitas in there? And it's
not gravitas, but it's like that. You roll in the back of your throat to like keep your tempo level.
Yeah, and it's very mannered and paced.
Yeah.
And so it's all concise, but I really do love that as well. Nothing happened here. Could you just report that? And I liked earlier, he's like, hey, when's your report happening? That's still going on? Yeah, it's happening. Oh, I'd like to go visit. It'll be really fun for me. It's like, oh, sure. And then like 90 seconds before on air, he's just standing in the background and she just looks around like, hey, are you staying? No, I'm not going to stay. No. By the way, could you do this? It's a classic Sheridan boss maneuver, which is he just puts some bullshit on your desk right before you're about to leave.
And he doesn't give you time to process it.
That's why he did it. Yeah, 100%.
It's like he didn't tell Marcus what to do before he left. He called him and was like, do this thing right now.
But, sir, I just got a status report from CNC a little while ago, and that sector's been absolutely quiet.
Exactly. So, just relax, because what you're saying is absolutely true.
That nothing happened there today.
Yes.
Just casually mention that nothing's going on.
That's right. Yeah, make a big deal out of it. As much as you can, given nothing happened.
I enjoy the Drazi visiting Londo because I really, really fucking love the blocking that they did in that with, like, the painting of Londo.
Oh, and there's a little mirror across the room where we see Londo's face. Yeah, that was good.
Like, the layering of that and him being... like the different sides of him being represented. But like there's this meaning packed into this really fucking goofy scene where he's also being racist.
Oh, and saying he's got a big dick.
Yeah.
Big dicks.
And I have a bigger dick than you.
So listen to what I have to say. Go away now. That was my favorite. I'm surprised nobody said it. My favorite is Dr. Franklin coming in. Being, hey, all of you in the same place. That's convenient for me. I was going to go to each one of you individually. We need some blood. Nothing to worry about. Just need some blood in case of any emergencies or kind of just in case there's a battle or injuries or deaths. We need some blood. So I'll send a formal request to you guys and you can give me your blood and don't worry about it, okay? And what I love about that scene is Sheridan has not shared to anyone that he has a plan, like in this specific way, but for some reason, and it's all down to Biggs' performance, but it's almost like Franklin is aware of it to a degree that he shouldn't be, but he's having fun. There's something about that scene where Franklin walks in being like, I've got to tell these guys they're got to give me blood, and I'm also going to wind them up for some reason. Like this, I think of Franklin as a character, and I'm like, why would he do that? But then it's like, you know what? Season 4 Franklin, he's fun now. He hung out with Marcus, and now it's a little bit more fun. And I just adore that scene so much because Sheridan has that giddiness about doing a ploy, and so does Franklin for some reason. It just amuses me greatly.
Yeah, he was doing the improvisation thing. He's like, oh, he's just riffing. I'll yes and this and add my own spin. It's great.
I also like the catch-22 logic that Sheridan gives the Drazi ambassador when he is chased down in the Zocalo and is like, hey, you need to tell us what's going on. They're saying that there's stuff out there. It's like, well, maybe there's not stuff out there. It's like, if I keep telling you what isn't there, what doesn't exist, we'll be here for centuries, wouldn't you agree? And just the Drazi ambassador, just the eyes rolling in the back of his head because of just how complicated this conversation's been. And you can't talk to the Drazi that way. They fight over the colors of scarves. They're not the most bright bulbs that we've got. So that was a great moment, but it all culminates with the council chambers, and I adored just how many scenes, including these council chambers, where it was just the ambassadors bickering with one another about like what they should do as a collective unit. Just no, we don't tell him what we know. That way we have more power. Yeah, that's right. It's like no, we need to let him know the stuff we know so that he is aware that we are strong. It's like okay, and just how Sheridan has left them hanging for who knows how long in those chambers just to stew there, just to play them. And what a beautiful sequence of events. It's so wonderfully acted from all of these ambassadors who have been, numerous amount of them have been in the show already as different aliens or these aliens. And I think this is just one of those times where it's good to just highlight that B5 has always had a very good like background actors, these guys who just fill in all of these different roles. And this is an episode that just almost in a way comes across as JMS giving them time on screen to do what they do and make them more memorable.
It feels like a reward.
It feels like a reward. It's probably the first episode where I properly note down, oh, the Brakiri, they seem interesting. Because we get a lot of the Brakiri guy and he has like strong opinions and we get a lot of close-ups on the makeup and their style. And I know we'll get more Brakiri. We've already had Brakiri before and we'll get more of them. But this is definitely one of the ones where I noted them down strongly. Like, okay, these guys are another strong voice here. It's not just the Drazi. But, Pat, for you, this all comes to a head here in these council chambers. Could you tell us what goes on here and your overall opinions on it?
I mean, they didn't give the game enough lines. That's what I was going to say. But yes, they're convinced that there's something going on and they need Sheridan and the White Stars to give them as much patrols. But the catch is he's like, I can't do anything unless I have full access to, make maneuvers without getting permission right away. So they basically give him everything he wanted and think that they won, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, they think that they've had the upper hand on him of, you didn't want to give us protection. Well, guess what? We've tricked you and you have to now. Oh.
Now you're in trouble. Now you have to protect us.
You can't fall back on your little loopholes and your legislation and paperwork bureaucracy crap. We've got you cornered. Jeez. What happens if I need them on a big mission? Well, we'll send our ships with them. All right, I guess that will do. And in Sheridan fashion, of course, ends with him walking out with a big smile on his face into one of the tubes and yelling just a big yes! so in line with him.
Woohoo?
No woohoo, or yippee, or yeehaw. That would have been, he would have given a yeehaw. He's a cowboy man. But when it comes to this particular story, it's very much played for comedy. It's very much played as a light-hearted thing to cut away to, all of the strong, dramatic, heavy material with the Minbari is happening. But I do want to just go over one thing that I'm curious of your opinions on as well as my own. Do you think what he's doing is good? Like the way he's doing it, because the entire thing is he is manipulating them. He's twisting them.
He's being dishonest.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it's something that we see Sheridan do a bunch. He's dishonest in order to get what he wants, and he believes that what the ends justify the means.
Right, and.
He's a tactician, not a diplomat.
Yeah. He's like, okay, well, I want to make this play, not I want to play this game.
Right. I mean, how do you feel about it in general? Do you think what he's doing? How do you feel about it overall?
I mean, if he had told his allies like Ivanova and Marcus, I might have felt a bit better about it. But on repeat viewing as an adult, I like it less. It's still funny, but you're supposed to be, putting together. I mean, eventually he's going to put together an interstellar alliance and do that with trust, not with, trickery and subterfuge. But again, that's what I'm saying is he's a tactician first. That's he's going to pretend to be in a weak position to lure them in and then actually do his, diplomatic attack on them. So it makes sense, but I like it slightly less in that it's so dishonest.
I find it peculiar. I mean, it's great. I think it's very funny. Bruce gets a lot of great material to chew into, but I think it is peculiar in the fact that season 4, we defeated the Vorlons and the Shadows, and now we're in the third age of mankind where we make our own destiny and fate, and he acts very Vorlon. Where they're too stupid. They're children. They need to be molded, manipulated, and we're shepherds to them. We need to trick them into doing what we know is best. And this is still in the era of the show, and we will see this change in season 5, but this is still in the era where the League are treated as just one group, like one dumb group, rather than individuals with points of view that matter as much as the big powers at play here. And I think that's great. Like, that's interesting. There's stuff to be made here, but there is a clear, that's not really here when it comes to the writing, because JMS writes it, as well as the direction here really does lean into they are dumb. Like, the League are stupid.
They don't know what's good for them.
They don't deserve autonomy. They don't deserve respect. They don't deserve the third age like our main characters. And that's where I've always had a bit of an issue when it comes to Babylon 5's space politics, where we can give so much reign over to the Narn and the Centauri and even the Vorlons and the Minbari, but the League are always used as this angry mob who are either stupid or used as comedy or used as an obstacle. And yet there are times, like in Deathwalker, where they're right and they deserve to be treated with respect, but the show uses them so often as just this obvious punching bag for our other characters to have. And I just find that such a head scratcher, especially when we do get into season 5 and it tries to change that by giving them individual votes, by giving the Drazi more power and respect in the world. But it's like, yeah, but they were a joke race at one point. Like, it's just something that I find is hard to wrap my head around. Like, I want to give JMS the credit of saying, like, oh, it is obvious that Sheridan is using Vorlon-like techniques, and by the end of the season, we'll see that humanity becomes the next Vorlons. But in all honesty, it is not treated like that here. I think it is very much, we have a funny idea, and the League of Non-Aligned Worlds are our stupid people, and so it's easy to do stuff to them because they're stupid. I mean, Pat, what do you think about that?
Well, it occurred to me the question of, like, who created the League of Non-Aligned Worlds? Did they create themselves, or was it thrust upon them? Because you have the major races of the Narn, Centauri, Minbari, and Earth having their own votes at the table, and then everybody else, like the rest on Gilligan's Island, you guys are in a league together, or like, I'm just curious, like, was it something they chose, or did humanity thrust that upon them after the what's the
Dilgar?
The Dilgar, thank you. I knew it started.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. They're clearly making World War I and World War II comparisons a lot with them. I mean, they're called the League of Non-Aligned Worlds, very much like the League of Nations. Exactly. And then eventually the UN and stuff. Yeah. And yet also when we talk about them, they're almost like Europe, like countries caught in the Second World War who couldn't defend against the overwhelming odds of either Germany or Russia or whatever else. And so America, aka Earth, had to step in and save their butts. And now they should be eternally grateful to them. Always. And that makes sense for Earth. But, like, when it comes to the writing in the show, like, when it comes to JMS and how he treats them, I think he doesn't treat them like real things. He treats them as just easy tools, avenues to make jokes with. I mean, Rachel, what do you think about that? Because we haven't talked about the League all that often during the pod.
No, and it does feel like, we said that Babylon 5 was a meeting place for everybody, so... But these races bought their place at the table. Mm. They have the capital, and then we have the rest. And we said that we would give them a chance, and maybe they could buy, like, 2 shares to rub together so they get a place at the table, but they don't get as much weight when it comes to any decision making as the rest of us, because they don't have as many shares.
It's an interesting just side of the show, because also, Pat, when we talked about this at the beginning, this is like peak Babylon 5, but weirdly enough, it's also the era of the show that lacks the most of the space politics in the show where we're following diplomats. It's more about war stuff, like dealing with wars, dealing with civil conflicts.
It lacks the nuance.
While in the first 3 seasons, we used to be in the council chambers pretty much every episode. This is like the first time it feels like we've been here in a while. Even though we may have been in other scenes, this feels like the first time we've had to deal with...
We've been in the war room more than we've been in the council chambers.
Yes, exactly right. And so, Pat, what do you think of just about that aspect of it, about how Babylon 5 as a series has morphed away from the space politicking? And we know for a fact in season 5 it will go very heavily back into it.
The other way. Yeah, I mean, maybe, yeah, that's true, because, like, we're in full state of war mode, basically, for the show. I'm trying to think of, at all this season, if a vote is ever called, but I guess that'd be the very last episode of this season, I guess, is about it. That I can recall off the top of my head. But, yeah, that's really interesting. I never thought of it that way, because it's so... it's going so fast, because, again, they wrapped up the Shadow War so quickly and just started ramping up towards Earth again, that there's no time for politicking or hearing people out as much. This is, I guess this is just a sample of that for this episode, I guess.
You have no choice in this, Sheridan. The League has spoken. You will bring the White Star Fleet into the League of Non-Aligned Worlds. In return, the League will support any action taken by the fleet.
And I can't possibly talk you out of this.
We're afraid not.
All right. I guess you're right. I don't have a whole lot of choice in this.
We got to hear that Rebo and Zooty exist. This is the first mention of them. I don't have anything more to say about it other than this is the first time, and they've already set up the type of goofy comedy that we'll get from them. And being somebody who's aware of how television works, as soon as they mentioned them this first time, I went, oh, okay, cute. But when they mentioned them again, it made me go, oh, we're going to have to meet them. They're going to have to come into the show at some point. And suffice to say they do, and we'll see that in season 5. And truly delightful who they cast as these two.
Yeah.
That's all.
I was always curious of at what point did they know who they had in mind, or it really was down to the last moment where like, oh, these two are perfect.
Yeah, but
because I always imagine them being like an Abbott and Costello kind of thing until later.
Oh yeah, and even then they still play into that angle of it. I don't have much else to say other than zooty zoot zoot. It's just I love that they
it's
established
a little dance.
Yeah, I love that they established like you got to raise your knee up when you do it. It's just shtick, and Londo hates it, but the way Sheridan does it when he walks out of his quarters, he's such a fanboy. Oh, that's hilarious. He's just laughing to himself. It's very much one of those, you have to get it type jokes, and I just adore that much.
It looks like a rejected Silly Walk applicant to the Ministry of Silly Walks. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Minbar is going through a civil war. Attacks are being made. Delen's city is being set ablaze, and we're with Delen and co. flying back home to hopefully put an end to all of this. And it is one of those aspects where, oh yeah, the Minbari are having problems. We've been building to this, but wow, it is just off to the races here, and it is, I think, a byproduct of season 4 existing the way it does, where they thought this was going to be the end, so we're going to rush through some of these plot points, because I think this all holds together mainly because of Mira's performance. That monologue, that conversation she has at the very beginning,
it's heavy. It's heavy on her. Really
sells me that this conflict has now just erupted, and I don't care that it feels sudden to me or could have been spread across a couple more episodes. It's just one of those things that we talk about on this podcast where when you lay things out, you lay them out, the writing, you could say, oh, that doesn't work, or maybe that's a little flat, or maybe this is a bit contrived, or this goes a bit too fast. But in reality, when you're sitting down and watching a thing and seeing the performance and the production, those things can just wash away because you're just so enamored by what's happening on the screen that it just is irrelevant, those complaints.
You forgive a lot when it's elevated by performance, and when, like, we at this point know Delenn. We know her, and Mira's using a lot of different things that we've seen Delenn do. So we see her unhappiness and her concern through lots of little decisions that the actress is making to show what the character is feeling and going through.
And with Atonement being a recent episode where Mira really got to play this guilt-ridden version of Delenn that we've seen throughout the series, but really magnified in this run of season 4, I really appreciated that she is in anguish over this being her fault in part. Like, did me breaking apart the Grey Council make this happen? Am I at fault? Did I start another war, in all honesty? And I think that's what's really beautiful to add to Delenn. We have often complained about Sheridan sometimes that it doesn't come across like JMS wants to throw the dirt on him and let it stick. Sometimes he'll be like, yeah, he shot him in Bari in self-defense, and then it's fine. What with Delenn, she's such a character who comes across as the most virtuous. She's religious, she's pristine, she's very much played as the sweetheart. But when JMS wants to throw mud on her and add complexities and add ambiguities and make you feel concerned about like what's her responsibility as a leader and as a character, it sticks, because this whole episode is basically balancing on her working through the conflict that she in part helped form. And I think that's what really is what the key element to this side of the story is Delenn's pain, Delenn's pride, Delenn's hope is being explored, and how we see it between herself and others, and how others view her from the outside. And so that's what's really powerful here. It's not really about the Minbari civil war and how that is going to be a big war plot we have to deal with, but instead it's more about character. You always got to bring it back to the character. So Minbari Civil War, you could complain we didn't see the war part all that often, but what's really, really, really important is we see how it unsettles the characters we are following, specifically Delenn. Now, Pat, Delenn is a character that I think most of like the fan base loves. She's a very beloved character, great performance, great kind of avenues that you can explore with her. But what do you think about her overall and in this era of the show?
I mean, I think in somebody else's position, the character could have come across as almost seeking martyrdom, but she like is because she's genuinely feeling and reeling from what's happening. That I believe it. I do think when it comes to a lot of other things that we've like criticized Delenn for she's like Sheridan, she's like kind of manipulative and withholding when it comes to dealing with other species. I think she is maybe a bit more genuine, or at least more upfront most of the time with the Minbari. But this episode and going into the next one is where she has to like not lie, but she's got to put it all out and have faith in others. You know, spoilers for the next episode, but yeah, I think I really like her here, and it speaks so much about the failures of those around her, and she's elevated. She elevates them at least a little bit. Someone like Lanier, incel Lanier hasn't inceled yet. But because he absolutely is devoted to her, and the others think they're devoted to her, but they're kind of lying to themselves, and that they just don't have the faith and resolve that Delenn and Lanier do.
There's a brilliant piece of commentary made in this episode about how civil war or civil unrest can form, and they use it in the sci-fi allegory way here, where Sinclair, aka Valen, he was a time traveler. He knew how society was going to go, and he wrote the book on how they have to be. But that didn't solve and this is where this is more relevant, that didn't solve, like the societal structures didn't solve the underlying problems. It didn't get rid of those.
Still there, and they grew.
Mm-hmm. And whether it was over the course of 1,000 years it took to erupt, or whether it's over the course of 10 years, or however long since the Mbryo War was at this point, like 15 years, is the point of, we see in real life, whatever country you're in or whatever era, like decade you're a part of, you do see some corner of your world fall into this very often, because these underlying problems just haven't been addressed. They've just been muffled. They've just been put underneath the carpet and just swept under there.
Obfuscated in some way through language or decisions or bureaucracy.
Or, in this case, you have to put it to the side because there's greater things to deal with. War, for instance. Like, they've had to deal with wars. They've had to deal with the Shadow War recently. And so we have often seen how that can be. But, with them, it mentioned it. Sinclair told us what to do, but also that in itself made societal problems that have lasted for generations. And it was a Vorlon tactic to keep us in line. And guess what? That gives us problems as a people. And now, like I said before, we're in the Third Age, where we get to see Delenn through the Minbari get to explore, what does that mean? How do we forge our own path? How do we become our own people? How do we move beyond being the servants or the good children of the Vorlons and the Ancient Ones and become something more, something else, something new? And we see with the religious castes and the warrior castes that they're stuck in those old ways and mentalities, and or they're wanting to do it in a shift things in a way that could be detrimental to their society. But Delenn is the chosen. She is, as the Inquisitor said, you've got to really come to terms with, is the world right and you are wrong, or is it that you are right and the world is wrong, Delenn? And this is, to me, also a really great almost payoff or continuation of Comes the Inquisitor, where that was a whole episode of Delenn, you have to do some introspection. And this is another one. It was like, Delenn, you have to do some introspection.
But I wonder, did I do this when I broke the Great Council?
Valen always said the Council would be broken in the Great Shadow War.
Lydia, you know the truth as well as I do. Valen only knew what Sinclair knew. He could not see beyond that. Once he left us, the future became fluid.
We brought Pat on because a certain someone is in this episode, and we haven't really got to talk about him yet. And so it's time to talk about Nehruin is here, and he's glorious. That's my first note. Glorious to see him. Glorious to have him. He's epic. Isn't he just the best? He's here, and he's brooding, and just talking about performances, John Vickery is just so magnificent at dialogue, but without it as well, there's just shots of him where he's just standing there, giving this judgmental look to the religious caste, and or this look of it
in that hallway.
Yeah, in the hallway, or just when he's looking at Delenn, and there's just so much you can get out of his physicality and his facial expressions that is, again, makes episodes like this rewarding to watch again, because you're getting to see the craft of these actors be on full display here. And I mean, one of the things that makes Nehruin a great character is, to me, the conversations every conversation he's ever had with Delenn is just excellent. Like, they've never had like a weaker conversation. So an episode where the plot is she calls Nehruin over to have a conversation with him, it's already a 10 out of 10 plot. Like, that there is, that's going to be great. I can't wait to watch that happen. Now, Rachel, Nehruin, we've talked about him greatly. We've appreciated him. We've loved him. We've praised him over the course of the show when we've had Pat on every time. But could you tell us a bit about what's he up to here and just your overall thoughts on it?
Well, he knows that it's gonna go to shit.
It's already been there for months.
and everybody's gone insane, and yeah, let's try and do something about it, but also, like, we're two sane people. Where, like, we might not have much luck. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what we can do. But he is apprehensive because if Delenn really cared about this, she would have dealt with this months ago. And you were the reason that things come to be. But I think what's really greatly pointed out in the dialogue is that was the past, okay? Like, that happened, I acknowledge it, but that isn't going to change anything if we just keep circling around of what happened, how did we get here? It's about getting out of it now.
Yeah. There's blame to be thrown, but we need practical action.
And Naroon, you're a man of practical action. If anything, you're a man of that. You're a guy who will fight and stand proud for what you believe in. And we both stand on the same side here. We may have differences of opinion. We may not like each other as people, but we are both loyal to our society. And that's why I've called you here today to help me get our people back. It's not about the warriors. It's not about the religious caste. It's not about that. It is about something more. And really, really great material. I mean, when it comes to direction, especially, Naroon has a very ominous look to him with those big horned bones on his head and John Vickery's very moody eyes. But the way that this is shot and composed, there's vulnerabilities to him that you see just from the way the camera is angled or blocking. My favorite piece is when we are in the hallway of the ship and he's behind all of his warriors and she's in front of all of her religious people. Like, he is having to be behind all of these guys protecting him, and he's talking through them, and the camera is trying to get a clear shot of him, but he's still being obscured in part by these wall of Mbryo, while Delenn is standing there right and proud and out there just saying, come with me, let's talk.
Yeah, it was like going to be the highlight for me was that him and Delenn meet in the chambers. There's just the two of them. And then there's like a point where like Delenn's kind of like, all right, cut the bullshit. Like, let's be real here. And he's like, I know, like everything just sucks. He's like, I understand it's all bad. And like, let's be real. And it's like this really interesting, I want to say turn on him. Cause he's like, he's still there, but it's just like, he's like a realist in that, what he knows what's happening. He's not fooled by anything, which makes the end where you don't know where it's going to go, makes the end so great, where he's like, oh, I totally played them. They, the religious, they're in shambles. They don't trust themselves or each other. We got this. I'm still not sure exactly if like he gave himself that head wound just to have an excuse to leave or anything like that. But it's, he's just, he's firing on all, what's the expression? On all sides.
Yeah.
Cylinders.
Yeah.
Cylinders. Oh my God. I'm not remembering any words tonight. I'm so sorry.
Get out, Pat. You've made some puns. You've made some jokes. And now you can't get words. We're falling apart over there. We've got to send you to Naroon's special physician so you can be looked after and maybe lose a lung, a little bit of it at least. I love that conversation.
I'll look like Marcus. I'll look like Marcus after he's beaten me up.
Yeah, sure. I love their conversation. It touches upon so many great things, but also in terms of how far they've come. When you think about legacies, she would talk to him in the authority role, like, I am a Satai. You will listen to me. You will bend. You will do what I order you to do.
He was a member of the Great Council now, so she can't pull that shit.
And then she broke the council. It doesn't matter. And it's no longer about pulling rank or power. Like, that's the dynamic in the previous episodes. He came to Babylon 5 to kill her because he was worried about her amassing power and using it as a religious zealot. He mentions that again here as well. They've not exactly been friends, but here it is no longer about the dick measuring competition of who's top dog here and who's the purest Minbari and everything of that nature. It is moving beyond that, that's irrelevant. That's no longer applicable to the situation. If anything, it is, we are both respected people. We are both known to each other as people who have strong convictions in what we believe, and we will stand by them, and that's why we should stand together. And you have that nice little running bit of, is that a compliment? You know, after fashion. And that's just, I love that. It's so cute and sweet, and to just see a side character, a guy that's been is in 5 episodes as Naroon in total, go from the mustache twirling bad guy in Legacies to a guy where you can have these complex conversations with.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're just like, it's such a reward, and it's like, I mean, if you're somebody who just watches a show very passively, but if you're like really into a show and you're paying attention, like, oh, I know that character, you know, the first time that he came back, you're like excited, like, oh, it's a returning character. That means he's maybe more valuable than I realized. He's not just a twirly mustache. But by the time you get to here, it's like, it's kind of, you can almost expect that he could like replace Delenn as a main character in season 4. Like, let's say the next episode goes differently, and then Naroon comes back and he's like, I'm your wife now, you know, Sheridan, I'm sorry, you know.
Sheridan, I have a ceremony where my friends listen to us explore our pleasure thresholds.
It's like, just let me go.
I say woo-hoo.
He's like, you're going to be my wife after,
after a fashion. And then
fashion, and by fashion I mean the fashion show.
Yeah, and then he clicks his fingers, and his linear, like his little linear assistant, comes in.
I think he's gonna get the original JMS pitch, Triluminary, where he'll go full transition.
Sure, why not? And he still has that voice though. Doesn't change the voice.
Oh,
Delenn is no longer here, but Naroon is here to rock your world, Johnny. Did you believe
Johnny.
that he did a
Johnny?
bonus turn?
Did anybody call him John in the show?
John. Yes, Delenn calls him John, but no one.
Only his
sister called him Johnny.
Sister, yes.
But Rachel, did you believe the villainous turn that they put at the end with Naroon?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I was just like, well, this tracks. He uses opportunities that he sees to do what he wants and what he thinks is right. So if he's like, now we can fucking win this. But I was like, I don't fully buy it. Because I believed that he was genuine when he was talking with Delenn and saying, like, when she's like, we can't win this. Neither side can win. It would just create more chaos. And he's like, yeah. So I was like, okay, this feels like it's still him working with that plan, but maybe Delenn didn't know what he was going to do.
Right. This was a crossroads for me when it happened, because I could see it being legitimate and real, and you could go down the he's a bad guy road. But why is a crossroads for me was, and we all have this with TV, right? Especially with serialized shows or your sci-fi things. There's that moment where it's like, oh, they're going to make a choice here with a character, and if they make this certain choice, I think that the show's worse if they do this. This was one of those turning points for me. It's like, if they did end Naroon of he was a traitor and he betrayed her and he was just a man looking for power, blah-de-blah-de-blah, I would have lost respect for Babylon 5. And it also would have been the more boring option to me. That's another reason why it was, you could do this, because it's the more boring option, and a lot of TV shows stand in the comfort zone. And yet I still didn't believe it, because I was like, Babylon 5 wouldn't screw me like that. Like, they would rather go for the more intriguing option of having a character like Naroon actually be good. And I think that's where it really sits for me as an important moment in the series as well, where there's just those key moments when you're watching a show where it's like, if they do this, that it'll be a fuck up on their part. And sometimes that happens, right? Like, how many shows have you watched, Rachel? Like Gilmore Girls, I would imagine, right? Or Grey's Anatomy or something, where okay, if they choose this way to go with the plot, they're fucked up, right? They've fucked it up.
Lorelai and Chris getting married.
There you go, Lorelai and Chris getting married. You know that reference Gilmore Girls heads. But Pat, for you, did you have any genuine?
I didn't
belief?
watch Gilmore Girls.
No. Did you have any genuine belief that he was being honest? Like this could have been a real thing of him being a turncoat here? Any further opinions on it?
I think at the time, I believed it could be happening, but I also believe that like we didn't have all of the information. But I do think at the time I was like, oh, okay, like he's doing this, but like it'll work out. Just will we convince him later to not be the turncoat? I think that's probably where more I was sitting was like Delenn will convince him to do the right thing. Maybe I didn't necessarily think that he was like always working with her the whole time.
I was surprised to receive your message. I considered not responding, but then I enjoy a mystery as much as anyone. I am, however, very disappointed in the welcome I received from your fellow religious caste. For a moment I thought they might actually fire on our ship.
You are under my protection. They will not harm you, except in their own defense.
There's a good boy in this episode who's a white knight, somebody who listens around corners. He's a little listener. He's a little guy who's here to save the day and lie to Delenn about it. And he's a good guy. He's a good guy, Lanier. Thoughts on good guy Lanier in this episode?
I don't hate it. But that's down to Bill Mooney's performance, not what JMS is laying down. I'm like, I don't like where this goes. I don't like the hint of what this is smelling like, because it smells like shit, and I know that it's coming.
We have mentioned on this podcast a few times that we want to give a proper critical analysis and see how it tracks of Lanier being this creepy little incel lover boy. Oh, I'm in love with Delenn, and it being a toxic trait. And from the writing, it stands. It's there. It's clear. But there's just a dissonance that we have as a viewer. One, where we just liked having a good character, like a nice character. Like Lanier was a nice character, and I liked having a nice character. And two, Bill Mooney isn't playing it that way. And what I mean by that, just to clarify, because we've had some comments in the previous episodes, I am aware that Bill Mooney put forth that Lanier is in love with Delenn, but he says this, and you can tell that he did not mean it to come in this monkey paw fashion. He looked at it as like almost like an Arthurian, beautiful, it's just a factor that helps motivate him on his quest to be a good person.
The way he believed in it, the way that it was originally presented, of it's a pure kind of love, not a romantic kind of love.
And even if there's a romantic angle, it isn't something that should be treated as bad, but rather it is, like we said, he himself looks at Lanier as through a romantic lens as the character, but JMS doesn't do that. He looks at it through a far more harsh perspective. And so it's always difficult because Bill Mooney, for most of the show, plays Lanier as this truly noble, brave, heroic character, a character that you could easily aspire to be, but the writing is saying otherwise, but not so explicitly until a certain point. There's little breadcrumbs of like, hey, Lanier, that's a dangerous road to go down, but it's not telling you that Lanier's a bad person yet.
No.
We, as a collective, like cringe or like just curling in a ball when we're looking at this, because we do have the perspective of where it goes forward. And I know some modern viewers, like some other podcasters are going through it the first time, cringe at it now because we are so much more aware of these type of guys.
How dangerous they can be.
Yeah, how dangerous they can be. But like when I watched Babylon 5 for the first time before we get to season 5, I still thought of Lanier as like, what a great character. Like, noble, brave. I wish I could be him. He's such a great guy. Like, he's the person that Delenn relies on the most. And so all of that is still here when I watch this episode. Like, I know that it's all bad and will lead down to a certain road. But guess what? In watching this for 45 minutes, I actually didn't think about it. I just didn't care. I just liked Lanier. Like, he's a good character. He's a good dude. I liked it. But every time I have to think about it further down the road, it makes me go, JMS, shut the fuck up. Just let Bill Mumy have his thing. But I understand why it's there. Now, Pat, what do you think about all of this?
I mean, I definitely think there's like a character assassination with the attempted assassination later on. But I think, yeah, I like Lanier up to this season. Well, actually, no, that's not even true, because I think he's like probably like, aside from Marcus, he's like the best ranger that ever ranged. But that's, spoiler. But yeah, like at this point, he's still like, he's like Ducky and was it 16 Candles? Like he's just like, he's on the edge of like wanting to profess his love. I guess he kind of does, but like Delenn knows and is like, hey, like, keep it in check. I'm with the captain of the football team. Like, it can't be together. And there's that fine line where he could be like, you know what? It's the noble thing to do to support and to prop you up, Delenn, like to, help you with your mission. Or there's that one where he's like bitter about doing it. And I think a lesser actor than Bill Mumy would, is it Mummy or Mumy? Right?
Mumy.
Thank you. Bill Mumy a lesser actor would be like, oh, I'm doing this kind of bitterly. Like, if it wasn't for Sheridan, I could be with you. And I mean, that's kind of what happens later on. But right now, he's nailing the performance. I like Lanier here.
Yeah, he gave up a part of his lung for her.
Hey, we don't know if it grows back.
I don't think so. I think he's going to be a little lungless.
I mean, I think we can suppose that maybe he's like Klingons where he has like double of everything. I don't know.
We know they have more blood than us. That
right.
was a fact.
Or they can survive with less. They can survive with less blood.
Yeah. I wonder if this comes back in season 5 in that episode where he has to hold his breath for a really long time. Remember that? That was a plot. It's like, hey, we leave you out here to suffocate. Bye. Like, I can't remember if it gets referenced there or not. And who knows? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We'll see. JMS, keeping tabs. I'm keeping tabs on you, buddy. He'll have some throwaway line. It was like, a year ago, I lost a little bit of my lung, but it's been growing back. Knowing him, he'll have some bullshit.
Or he's been doing some exercises, like some, something like that. I mean, I'm certain it's not in there, but
side effect of meditation is that he can hold the breath longer, and he has improved his lung capacity despite losing part of his lung.
But the main thrust with Lanier outside of all of that is he's aware that the fellow religious caste on the ship are going to kill everyone because they believe this is a just cause. They believe that they have to stop Delenn from bending the knee to the warriors because they don't trust in her. They don't have the faith. And so Lanier cottons onto their ploy and he stops it at great sacrifice to himself.
Do you think he was deliberately there, like spying on them, or was it just a coincidence that he was just around the corner?
Look, I'll be real with you. B5 loves that. B5 loves a character walking out of the corner after scenes happen to reveal that they heard everything.
Absolutely.
So I can't give you a real answer. Because it's been used so often with so many characters in this show, I can't tell you. I don't know. Pat, do you have an opinion?
Babylon 5 is a soap opera. That's my answer. They always do that. It's 100% in soap operas. So
there you go. Pat's a soap opera head. He's a soap head.
Yeah, I gotta clean my hair. It's my soap head.
Rachel,
but yeah, I think
gave
he
a grimace to that. By the way, she grimaced when you said that.
That's what I live for. No, I think it's a coincidence.
My wife does not like dirty-haired men on this podcast. Sorry, Pat. We're going to have to hang up the call.
Sorry, Dax Shepard. Sorry, Kristen Bell. Sorry. I think it's a coincidence. I don't think he was lurking around looking for clues. I think it was a coincidence. But I think that's also...
although it's weird, he did have a little detective hat on and a big Sherlock Holmes-like pipe while he did that scene. And he was smoking from it, being like, curious.
Curiouser. Is her grimace gone away, or she's just stuck on grimace?
No,
mode?
She's still upset with you, Pat. You're going to have to really work up to a proper forgiveness by the end of this discussion.
Delenn does not walk in the same world that you and I walk in. She does not see the same world that you and I see. In her world, we are better than we are. We care more than we care. We act towards each other with compassion. I much prefer her world to that of my own, and I will not allow anything to threaten that.
It is that time where we talk about an actor or actress that appeared in a given episode. We shine a spotlight on them. We talk about their performance, their role in the episode, any interesting pieces of trivia we've picked up, as well as things we've seen them in before. And I thought, hey, this could be our opportunity to talk about somebody that I didn't realize was in B5 before. Like, I forgot that they were here. And it also can tie back into a previous Spotlight actor we've done as well. So we're going to talk about a character who's just called religious member number 1 or religious guy number 1. And he is one of the main religious cast members who's turning against Delenn. He's the one that has reservations about it in the first place. The one who comes across as the older member of the group. And he's known Delenn from the Earthman Barry War starting, and knows her as like a leading member of the Grey Council, and he trusts in her, but at the same time, he is tempted to let it all go and kill everyone on the ship. And he is the one that carries the most guilt on their face throughout the entire journey of the episode. Not just once they realize that Delenn's actually a good person and they all have that look of, oh boy. He always had the oh boy look. So Rachel, who's the actor of discussion in this one?
Guy Siner.
Guy Siner, who... I know from quite a few things, but what did you think of his performance overall, Rachel? Because he's a smaller player here, but he is a juxtaposition to the other religious guy who's a little bit more gung-ho about killing everyone. What did you think of the performance?
I enjoyed it. I liked he was layering up the emotions quite nicely without overplaying it. He didn't give that vibe of, I've got my shot, I'm going to make the most of it. I've got lines in this episode and a guest spot, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it big. He feels like the character.
I liked seeing a shitty religious member who isn't like a zealot or hoity-toity. He just came across as a schmuck, but in a way where I didn't feel like he was an idiot. Like Pharrell in Lines of Communication, the guy who teamed up with the Druck, was like, that guy was just dumb. This guy was misguided. And that's the thing that is really important to portray in your acting here, because there's another version of this episode where I could just roll my eyes at this plot taking place because it's just a bunch of idiots doing stupid things so that stakes can happen. But you can tell through not just the dialogue, but through his performance, there's just layers of rationalization to all of these actions that makes him feel lived in and real, more than if he was just a dumb schmuck like Pharrell in a previous episode. And he doesn't have that kind of weird detachment that a lot of religious Minbari have in this series, including Delenn herself. He comes across as a guy that has points of view on things, and like I can follow along why he's doing this, but like I said, his performance is great in counterpart to the other religious Mbryo guy who's more strong-willed, and he doesn't come across like a nut job, the other guy. He just comes across as a guy who's, I've thought about it, and this is how it has to be. And this guy is just Mr. I can't believe that, but I haven't thought about it, so I'm just going to do what you say. He's a follower. Pat, what do you think about this performance and this character and how he slots into the story?
I think he does a solid job with this performance. I especially, again, it's reading his face, especially at the end with Lanier being like, "Oh, whoever did this, they must feel really bad," or if that could happen, they feel really bad, and they look so guilty. It's so much fun. Like I feel like he was like, "Oh, I got this. Like here I go." It does a lot with not a big part. So I appreciated it for sure. I see what you meant by a worry about it could have been like, for plot reasons, these are happening. Yeah, but it wasn't that.
No. So are you familiar with this actor at all, Pat? Have you seen him in anything?
The only thing I could find about him that I was familiar with was he had a memorable, to me, role in Star Trek Enterprise, but otherwise I couldn't pick him out of a lineup, honest.
So could you expand upon who he was in Star Trek Enterprise?
So he played Malcolm Reed's father on one episode of Star Trek Enterprise, and it was just a video call. So I don't even think he knew he was on a Star Trek show. I thought he was doing a video telephone call in 2002. He just explained it was a very serious British father, and that was all he did. Mm. So I think he's a better performance here than he was on Enterprise.
Do you remember by any chance, because I know you've listened to the podcast, do you remember a previous Spotlight actor or actress specifically we've had who was Malcolm Reed's mother? Do you remember by any chance?
Oh, yeah, because I remember her voice. Because there was an episode. Go ahead.
In Babylon 5, what shrill British lady have we had on in one episode who was very much a delight to view in that? I mean, that's giving you some major clues. Come on, Mr. Police, I gave you all the clues.
Had a lovely ponytail. But...
No.
Ponytail? No, ponytail.
No.
Mm-mm.
She was fully bald, huh?
Fully bald.
Oh, that's right. Only the youngest wife.
Oh, you've been
Jesus. Okay, fine. Yes.
She's Timo.
Yeah, the one who could cut a fresh milk. Lando?
Yes, Timov was Malcolm Reed's mother. And so, by happenstance, I didn't realize that the dad would also be in Babylon 5.
That's funny.
So, we've had both of Reed's parents on, and for Spotlight actors. That's what I meant, like, ties back to a previous Spotlight actor. So, I'm actually very shocked that you haven't seen this guy in more, because I mean, you're a little bit older than us, but also you have similar tastes in shows and comedies and stuff, and like British comedies.
How much older Doctor Who have you watched?
Yeah, you Doctor Who fan.
I mean, if you told me he was in old Doctor Who, I believe it. But yeah, I have watched quite a bit of the old stuff. I mean, Fourth Doctor is my Doctor. So that's probably what I've watched the most of. After that's probably Davidson, but that's probably about the biggest chunk of the old Who.
Wow, the old Who. Well, I was just skirting around the fact of he's mainly known for doing Allo Allo, which he's one of the main characters in. He's Gruber. He's in the beloved British sitcom Allo Allo, and I was just curious if you don't. Wow,
what?
Pat, get the fuck out of here.
What?
10 years, 85 episodes.
How have you missed that?
How, man?
How?
Allo Allo was always. I mean, that's iconic. That's okay. The greatest thing about Allo Allo. So, for people who don't know, it's a British comedy show set during the Second World War. We're following a bunch of
occupied France,
and they're Nazis and they're the French people, and our main characters are just these hapless losers who run I think they run like a cafe or something, and they are given an illegal, like a prized painting that the Nazis are after. and it's got this absurd name, like it's like the such and such with the lovely boobies and everything. And the greatest thing about Allo Allo is every episode bleeds into the next. Like every episode just keeps ramping up on the previous one. So it's like, oh, this thing got introduced and now it's boiling over into this comedic set piece. To give it as it does it far more than this, but it kind of reminds me of Green Acres, the American television comedy, where in Green Acres, like every episode you get to see how their house gets built more and more. This was very much like, how much are they going to get away from the Nazis? And eventually, like, an SS officer comes in, and he's great. And
the fallen Madonna with the big boobies.
Yes, and it's a really great show. You would adore it very much. It's very funny.
One is genuine, two are forgeries. Which is which?
This is an early Van Klomp. How do you know? When he was taller, he signed his paintings further up.
What may be distracting for people who know him and they see him in Babylon 5 is he has a very expressive face. He does a very raised eyebrow, and he has a very defined crease in the middle of his eyebrows. And he does the very stiff upper lip. And so if you look at a picture of him in Allo Allo, 90% of the shots of him doing the face. And so when you see him in Babylon 5, it is distracting because through all of the makeup, you can just see, hey, it's the guy from Allo Allo, because he has such a striking face. And so I didn't expect Pat not to know Allo Allo. That was a surprise. But I'm a big fan of that show.
I was busy
it's
watching
very
The Young
funny.
Ones. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The Young Ones is a whole different kettle of fish. But he started his career doing stuff like Doctor Who. He also did Z-Cars, which was something that Brian Blessed worked on. If you want to hear more about Z-Cars, I recommend Brian Blessed's autobiography and the audiobook version. You're in for a good time. But quickly after that, he also did I, Claudius, which also had Brian Blessed in it at some point. So in the early parts of this guy's career, he just kept circling around with Brian Blessed over and over again. He just kept bumping into him. And funnily enough, he was also, right after Allo Allo finished, he was in an episode of The British Empire, by the way, Pat, which I'm sure you've seen The British Empire, right? The show that Chris Barry did after Red Dwarf.
Oh, that one. Okay,
The show he left Red Dwarf to do?
Yes, I'm familiar with it, but not by name. I just remember seeing like the still shots and stuff of. Look,
you've never watched British Empire?
No. I watched.
Get out,
I watched,
fucking Pat.
I watched Tomb Raider.
This down.
I watched Tomb Raider. Is that okay?
Get out. Fucking Pat. I really thought he would have had more things. Now, Rachel, I've gone through a bunch, but are you familiar with this actor by any chance? Or is it just Allo Allo?
I wanted to ask if you remember him in Seinfeld.
Yeah, he's in The Doodle.
Seinfeld?
He was in The Doodle. I can't remember exactly what his role is, but I just remember he did the face there. And the thing to point out again
It's a Ziggy. Is that episode? Is that The Doodle?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But the thing is to point out that after Allo Allo and British Empire, he did go over to America, and that's why he's in stuff like Babylon 5 and Seinfeld and Lost Highway, David Lynch.
His mum is British. His dad is American, I think it was. He's a flip of what we usually say if he's an American British actor.
Right, but in all fairness, he started his career doing English productions, and then after Allo Allo, he came over to America, where he did stuff like Babylon 5. He did a little spot in Lost Highway. He did a spot in Leprechaun 4 in space.
I remember him in SpongeBob.
Well, no, you don't, actually. So, he's in SpongeBob technically. So I actually have a whole thing about SpongeBob because I saw it. He's a character in SpongeBob who's well loved, and
Man Ray,
who is the evil antagonist to Barnacle Boy and all of that. And now Man Ray's a meme as well nowadays, where he has SpongeBob's license and he's just like looking at it. But the thing about Man Ray I learned is, he was voiced by John Rhys Davies in the show. So that's who he was voiced by, I do believe. But initially, they had cast Guy to do it. And in the end, his credit was still left on. So when you watch the episode, it says Man Ray is played by him, even though in the end, that's not the voice they used. So
That's
he's
so
still
weird.
credited. He's still credited for doing it because he did do it and they left his credit in by mistake in the final product. So it has to be there, but he did not do the voice in SpongeBob. He didn't do it in the end. Isn't that bizarre?
And they do that, like, it's different seasons where they have those two things. They think
They screwed it up.
You think they would have fucking fixed that? I do remember him as the Harbour Master because he does the face.
Oh, in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yes. He's in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, that was the other one I did recognize. I was like, oh yeah, the face. Yeah.
The face. He's got a very funny look to him. But
I do remember him in The Crown.
Oh, who was he in The Crown?
Who was in The Crown?
Francis Pym.
So what's that exactly? Do you remember the character by any chance?
He's in 2 episodes of season 4, so he's in it with Olivia Colman.
He's in the Coleman era.
I believe.
I can imagine he's a queen suck up. But I remember
he's one
him.
of the politicians.
I remember him in Mr. Sloan, which was a Nick Frost television show nobody talks about, but I really liked, where Nick Frost plays a loser who, when we first meet him, is trying to kill himself. And talking about Olivia Colman's the wife in that, of course, because if it's British, Olivia Colman will most likely be in it. And it was a really good show about a guy who fell on hard times, was trying to get his life together, but was struggling. And it was funny. It was a comedy.
Period piece.
And I liked it. It was good. It was a good show, worth checking out. But I remember he was in a couple of episodes in that, and he was snooty, of course. And the biggest surprise to me, I didn't realize this. Egg on my face, I'll admit it. I didn't realize that this actor was still with us. I thought he was no longer with us, so I was gobsmacked to see.
Wait, you thought he was dead or retired?
No, dead.
Okay.
I thought he had passed away, and I didn't realize he was still with us and acting.
Yeah.
He has projects happening right now. I had no clue. Because in all honesty, a lot of the LOLO cast members have either passed away or have retired or do very minimal projects. But I was really delighted to see there's footage of him recently at conventions and stuff in the full Nazi uniform and giving people the quips and everything and signing autographs and doing the face. No. And a person came up to him and he's like, they didn't have anything for him to sign. And he jokingly did the British thing of being like, oh, you have nothing to sign, love? Then piss off. Nothing we need from you then. And it's just very cute and very amusing. And I watched some interviews with him where he does talk about the struggle of being a guy lumped in as a comedic actor when he's an actor. Like he does dramatic material, but he's known for doing the goofy face and the goofy accent. So I can imagine that's a struggle to get past.
Do you have any more fun facts?
That's mainly my list of fun facts. The SpongeBob thing, that he's still out there working, and just he has had that thing we've heard many sitcom actors go through of they get typecast or people look at them or people want him to do the voice or the face in the street. And it's like, that's a lot to deal with when he's an actor that just acts.
I have some.
Okay.
So I like going to actors' websites when we do these things. And I was shocked when I went to his.
Oh, no.
I was shocked. It's been updated this year.
Oh, my God.
I thought it was going to be like a GeoCities or something. Yeah.
It's been updated this year.
That's Excel. Oh, my God. They don't do that.
At the bottom, the copyright at the bottom.
So it doesn't look like an early
2022.
So it doesn't look like an early 2000s
No, it
site?
looks like it was made with WordPress.
Oh, wow.
Like, it was like mobile compatible. And I was like, wait, what? And it looks like he's made it himself.
Oh, my Lord. Awesome. Truly amazing.
So, because, do you want the note from Diary and News or the FAQ first?
FAQ. I've got to know a little bit of the FAQ. Okay.
One of the things that we didn't mention was he's in a very, niche but beloved franchise.
Oh, what one did I forget?
Leprechaun.
I did say Leprechaun. He was in Leprechaun 4 in space.
Mm-hmm.
with Warwick Davis.
Yes, but we didn't really talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't acknowledge whether any of us had seen it. Cause...
I've seen the Leprechaun movies. That's where Jennifer Aniston got her start.
Mm-hmm.
People forget that.
Yeah.
I don't. Jen,
she doesn't.
I don't.
So one of the FAQs was like, do you regret any of the movies that you've been
No,
in?
don't say Leprechaun 4, where he shaved his head. He was bold in that.
And he's just like, I don't regret anything, but I only have a few things that I'm proud of. Then he goes on to say, that said, I don't regret any films I've made, although Leprechaun 4 was not a pleasant experience from a purely physical point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I was called daily around 5 a.m. and spent many, many hours in the makeup chair being tortured by brilliant special effects artist Gabe Bartalos.
Mm.
The prosthetic was glued to my body all over from the waist up, back and front, and was extremely uncomfortable.
You must have loved doing B5.
What was
where
it?
he
Which
got to
came
be
first?
Minbari.
Which came first? Babylon 5 or Leprechaun 4?
I think Leprechaun 4 came first.
Okay.
I think that was like mid-90s and around the same time.
I thought B5 was
Maybe B5. But either way, he didn't learn the lesson about prosthetics from either production.
Comparatively, the B5 ones would be less.
Well, it wasn't a full body. It was just a head.
Yeah, well, it was waist up. And then, bless you. So then we have the diary and news section.
Thank you.
And I thought this was really cute because he has a little post. That was from February 23rd, 2023.
Oh, recent.
Posted 2 things. So there's only 3 posts in this section.
That's okay.
One of them being like, this is where the news and diary stuff is gonna happen, and a picture of him.
That's nice.
One being like, I'm gonna do this hello thing. And this third post, where I was like, oh, he's a nerd. This is cute. And it's a photo of him going up to like George Romero's table at a con.
Oh, yeah.
And it says, in 2014, it was my great privilege to meet George Romero, genius of the zombie movie genre, at a convention in London. It always makes me happy to remember that just for a moment, I made him laugh pretty helplessly.
Oh, that's great. I mean, when you're an actor like him, where outside of LOLO, he did do a lot of genre work. Like I said, he's in Leprechaun 4, he's in Babylon 5, which is genre stuff. So I would imagine for somebody like him, a figure like George Romero is the king. Like, you want to talk to them, you want to meet them. They're the person you'd want to go to.
After we are no more, the ship will continue to drift further into hyperspace until we cannot be found. The ship will become a monument to our caste and to our willingness to do all that we can to protect our people.
I had a funny anecdote when I was doing research for this episode, where I thought to myself, you had given me the heads up that it was going to be Guy as our spotlight, and all I could think about in watching this episode was it's a bunch of British dudes in like Southeast Asian like clothes, all the religious cast, and I was like, there is, it's probably the worst age of the Gilbert and Sullivan, but is the Mikado, and I thought to myself, you know what, I should write a version for Babylon 5 for Three Little Maids, and I got pretty far. I started writing it, but I thought it was prophetic in the sense that of the 3 maids that sing in Mikado, the one of them is actually named Yum Yum, and I thought, well, that's perfect. Yeah.
Oh my god. And that's what I'm going to give Rumors, Bargains, and Lies a Yum Yum.
Yum Yum.
That's good. That's a good rating. That means good.
No half yums.
No half yums. Pat, I mean, you just said the words, but will you give it a Yum Yum?
I wholeheartedly give it a yum yum.
Yum yum. Yum yum. Yum yum.
But you do have the DVD description for the next episode of Babylon 5.
That I do.
On the next Babylon 5.
Episode 14. Moments of Transition. Aw, damn it, it doesn't have a meanwhile either.
Well, let's hear it and then we'll judge if it doesn't.
The battle is lost, but the war can still be won. Delenn surrenders Minbar's religious caste to the rival warrior caste, then outwits her foes at the ritual of Starfire Wheel.
Oh, spoiler, she's going to outdo them. No, don't tell me that. I want to be surprised.
At the Star Fire Festival.
Yeah, the Fire Festival. She's going to have little salads and cups and be really upset. And we're
going to ask the room what he would do for bottled water. Yeah,
I would suck a cock for bottled water.
I was hoping to get you to
Delenn. I like your one. Delenn. I'm willing to give gobbies for Maccas.
I'll suck John's cock.
And that's why we're the only Australian Babylon 5 podcast, because we can use the iconic phrase, slang term, give gobbies for Maccas, which means give blowjobs for some McDonald's. That's what that phrase means. We love to use the phrase gobby as in suck a dick. And so every time I watch Spider-Man where he's like, you're out of your mind, gobby, I'm like, you're out, gobby. Every time I hear gobby used, I get a smile on my face. And you guys can keep smiling with us if you follow us on our social medias. We're on all of them practically. YumYumPod or YumYumPodcast. We are posting on there regularly, so feel free to interact with us, follow us, subscribe, all of that good stuff. You can email us if you want to contact us more directly over at
yumyumpod@gmail.com.
We have a Patreon where we are giving at least 4 bucket loads worth of content. Isn't that right?
We're working on the 5th.
And how are we working on the 5th? What's going on? There's lots of exciting things going on over at our Patreon.
You mentioned it already, but we're making our way through The Expanse. But this is unlike any other show that we've done before because it's not a rewatch for either of us.
No, we're watching it through for the first time, so no spoilers, please. Pat literally spoiled something right before we recorded, and I was upset. I'm loose
angry.
lips sink ships. Just saying. And so we're going through The Expanse. If that interests you by in any way, come on over. You get to be a part of our group Discord when you join our Patreon. And we have just so much more content over there as well. We're talking about the Alien movie franchise right now, once a month. And we give our thoughts on things every fortnight. Stranger Things has been talked about. I gave my thoughts on the Orville. Everyone's been asking me, Ryan, what do you think about the Orville? And you can come over to our Patreon. All of this is in the description below, including, I'm actually not going to put this in the description because I'm too lazy, but if you read certain letters, you can read out the phrase, good eating to you.
Good eating to you both.
Good eating to you.
Delenn, I need some gobbies for Maccas. I need some good eatings.
I may be born warrior, but my mouth is worker.
Mr. Cannonball Day.